Morning.
Hi, Shauna. How are
You
you?
are
I don't know.
sideways.
Yes, there you go. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good, good. Yes, thanks for joining Hollywood Times, and let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Shauna, tell us a little bit about kind of your overall view of health and wellness and what you and another doctor, I believe, are trying to do.
Sure. So I'm Shauna Springer, chief psychologist for Stella. And over the past 2 years, we've launched 40 clinics across the US because we believe, Dr. Lipov and myself, that wellness is a national crisis, a global crisis, and that we need to innovate like our lives depend on it because the lives of people we care about just might. We believe that post-traumatic stress, which is very clearly now to all of us a human universal, something that we all deal with in life, and that many of us have dealt with so much more in the last 2 years, can be healed. We believe it's a physical injury in the brain that can be seen with the right brain scan, and that the combination of treating the injury and doing the work in talk therapy is really what can help people get long lasting gains.
So, what have you noticed from those scans that indicate to you that someone is damaged, and what is what does that treatment look like? For let's do a case study. Let's say I am a veteran and I just came back from war, and I'd seen some traumatic things, and how is my brain different from, say, a person that does not have that PTSD, and then what does that treatment look like?
I've treated about 100 veteran patients actually over the past few years with the treatment stellate ganglion block that I'm talking about. So to your question, Mark, in a brain scan, what you would see is that the brain is hyperactive, and that's correlated with certain symptoms. And this isn't just a veterans issue. A lot of us have these symptoms now. So here are the symptoms that we would look for. Difficulty sleeping, so your sleep is terrible night after night. Floods of sudden anxiety or panic that kind of seem to come from nowhere without a real cause. The floods of irritability or anger. The difficulties concentrating is also one of these symptoms, as well as hypervigilance, which just means that you view the world from a threat-based perspective and you're always looking for what possible threat, what's next, kind of living in this state of chronic threat response. And then the last one is jumping out of your skin when you hear a loud noise or somebody comes up behind you, that jittery response. So I think one of the things that we've all learned is that this isn't just a veterans issue. This is not some abstract thing. It's affected so many of us. And even before the pandemic, we had so many people who were needlessly suffering. The treatment involves an injection in the neck. And I'm going to tell you, you're the first one to hear it. I got this treatment yesterday. My neck, totally fine. Looks, it was yesterday morning I went in to Dr. John Howe, one of our Stella Center, Stella MD providers. He gave me an injection in the neck, and my sleep was so much better last night. I don't have PTSD. I don't, but I've been getting terrible sleep during the pandemic. And I had the data on my Fitbit to show me that I was getting like 3.5 hours of good sleep every night. And last night it was different. And so my neck is fine. I don't have any dark circles under my eyes. I'm raring to go because this treatment brings an overactivated system back to a state of calm.
Some people are naturally excitable and maybe just more, I don't know, animated. How do you know when you have an overactive system versus, it's just a personality trait, or what is that point when it gets to be harmful to your overall mental health and physical health?
Well, that's it. You just said it. When does it get to be harmful? So people that have a lot of energy can enjoy their energy. Other people can enjoy their energy. They can just be sort of, people that are called, oh, that's you're intense, by other people.
Yes.
When it starts to, right, when it starts to become distressing or affects the quality of your relationships, And I'll give
Mhm.
you a specific example. So a lot of my patients, veterans and civilians alike, when they're in this state of chronic threat response, they can get a surge of irritability and snap at someone they love. And then that person looks at them with a face full of, fear or sort of shock, and they feel terrible about it. And so that's going to affect their relationships when they feel like they're overreacting to things that really shouldn't cause them to feel that irritability or anger response. So when it starts to affect your quality of life and the quality of life of those you love in your relationships, that's when you need to think about treatment.
Yeah, and I know certain people with personality traits like narcissism will act that way. You mentioned a remorse factor. I know people that do that and snap and do not feel that remorse. How,
Yeah,
uh,
me too. Yeah,
how does that work, Sean?
yeah, we all do, right? So narcissism as a personality trait is going to be like a long-term thing. And to your point, people that have personality disorders or certain personality styles, their thinking, quite frankly, is if everybody else around me wasn't such a jerk, everything would be totally
Yeah.
fine, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who has a baseline of having good relationships with people. And then because of all of the trauma or chronic stress in their life, their body system shifts. And now they're snapping at people they love. And now they're feeling shame and their relationships are getting affected. And they start to think, what was that? Why am I not myself? Or a loved one might say, you've really changed. You're different now. This happens when warriors go to war. Sometimes their partners will say, I feel like you're not the same person anymore. But it also happens to all of us. When we have enough stress and trauma in our life, it can change our way of navigating relationships. And there often is remorse when it's not kind of how we roll through the world, so to speak.
Well, that's a yeah, that's fascinating because I think in the world of COVID and dealing with this, there are a lot of people that haven't been able to manage this, and I've noticed that because I'll meet people and they're like, "Oh God, I'm so stressed out," or "I stayed at home the last year and a half, and I just won't go out until I get a vaccine." And even then, all that stress and fear, it really comes
Yeah.
from that. I think you touched upon that. um is that something that you've observed as well with people? And so this simple injection can lower that emotion, I guess, or what's how does that mechanically work with these people, that it's a very psychological and very deep seated fear of the world now with this disease?
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned, because I've worked for about 10 plus years with our warfighters, is that Americans across the country are experiencing a level and type of trauma that's familiar to many of our warfighters.
Mhm.
So, yes, to your point, many of us have been sort of baking in fear and something that I call stealth anxiety. Stealth anxiety is just, what if I go out and I catch the virus, I get sick, somebody I love catches it and dies very quickly, somebody that was healthy a week ago. And then, right? So these are not normal times. These are not normal stressors. And so the first thing I would say is it makes sense if you are shifting towards a more fearful state. But if you stay in that state long enough, your brain will change and your system will change so that you're in chronic threat response mode. And what this injection, stellate ganglion block, can do is reverse that and bring you back to a state of calm. Whether you have PTSD or not, like I said, I got an injection yesterday and I'm sleeping again. So I can tell you that, if this works for you, like I've seen it work for so many of the patients that we've treated and, that worked for me, it may be able to really help bring you back to a state of calm. And when you're in that state of calm, you can say, okay, now what's my plan? How am I going to navigate the world? and you'll be calm when you think about how you're going to move forward. And that's totally different than making decisions when you're in that state of chronic threat response.
Yes, and so let's get to that actual injection. First of all, what
Sure.
is the cost of that? And is that being made widely available? And are there any, like contraindications, like certain populations cannot use it? Do you have a FDA approval? I mean, how does yeah, the actual injection? Now I'm curious and I want to get it.
Yeah, let's dive into it. Okay, so here's something interesting. This is not a new procedure. It's been around for about 100 years
Hmm.
in the pain tradition. It's been used for, have you ever heard of shingles? It's an
Yeah.
adult form of chickenpox. So it's used for shingles, and it's used for phantom limb pain when people have, that dog is fabulous, by the way.
Oh,
Sorry, I
he's
see your dog.
very moody right now. Hello, say
He's
hi.
amazing. Yeah. Is he like a part pug or something?
He's Puggle. Yeah, he's part Beagle.
Oh, oh my gosh. I'm so into that. Okay, I'll stay on back on track. Um, so this is not a new injection.
Mhm.
It's been used for pain for about 100 years, since 1926. And the medication that's used is the same exact medication that women get during epidurals in childbirth.
Mhm.
So thousands of women every day get this medication. It's an FDA approved anesthetic medication used every day across the country, and it's been used for pain, and we have adapted it based on Dr. Eugene Lipov's work and other pioneers to treat symptoms of chronic stress, acute stress, and PTSD. So the injection goes into a cluster of nerves in the neck, and we can see if it worked within 15, 20 minutes usually. The procedure is quick. It's like a 15-minute procedure, and they have you stay for about 15 or 20 minutes just to make sure that, how are you feeling and check on you. So it's considered a very routine, safe procedure.
Okay, so it's used in childbirth. So is it almost like, because obviously women go through so much stress when they're giving, birth and life. That would make sense, and it's something. Wow, it's already been used for 100 years. Now, how long does this injection last? I mean, because I, you know, I always feel that if we don't treat the root cause and then we go, kind of like an injection route or a medication route, it may revert back. So how long does this last? And, you got a great night's sleep last night. Is that going to continue for the rest of the week, or is that going to taper off?
Oh no, it won't. It won't taper off, because I've treated with the physicians. I've co-treated about 100 patients and tracked them for the last 4 or 5 years. I've been able to observe this from the time they get the injection in the operating room to everything that happens after. I
Mm.
want to go back to a piece of your other question so that I'm not avoiding the question, how much does it cost? This is not covered currently in the US by insurance. It's not
Mhm.
covered. It's seen as something like LASIK, which is also not covered. It's considered, it can change your eyesight, it can change your whole quality of life to have LASIK, but it's an out-of-pocket fee for this. It costs typically among most providers anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. We charge $3,000. And what we've started doing is breaking it down into $2,000 for a first procedure. And if you need a follow-up procedure, you can pay about another $1,000 to get that, because sometimes people only need the one procedure. Um,
Mm.
it lasts for years for many of my patients. But one of the things that I really think makes a difference is what you do with the window of opportunity. And I'm going to give you an analogy here. So if we've all been on vacation and gotten to a place of kind of calm and, back to kind of a more calm state, that's what vacation should do for us. If we
Not
come
always.
back from, not always, there's vacation and family trips, and those are two different things. But if you went on your ideal vacation with your puggle and you guys got to a place of relaxation, right? Ideally, that would last for a while, depending on what you do with that opportunity. If you
Mhm.
come back and you drop back into the same high stress lifestyle and you start drinking 4 coffees a day, you're not going to be immune to that stress. It's going to come right back. But if you went on vacation and you said, okay, I'm going to change my lifestyle a little bit, I'm going to take a slower pace, I'm going to build in some mindfulness meditation, I'm going to do some work in therapy to really change those underlying thoughts and behaviors and really focus on what am I fearful about? How can I create a plan that feels like I have some things under my control? If you do that with the stellate ganglion block injection, that's what I think makes a real difference. So there's research coming out now that's combining. I just got back from the Navy SEAL Foundation's Impact Forum. I'm actually still in San Diego, just attended that. And there's research that's looking at the combination of stellate ganglion block and therapy, which is so exciting because that's the model I've been writing about for many years now. That's what I think that's where the magic is combining those two.
That's great. And you have 4 to 5 years, you said, of data and a bunch of cases, like specific cases you've worked on. What does that kind
Yeah.
of look like from a scientific level? Do uh, is it just case studies, or do you actually have some sort of, method of collecting data? I mean, do you look at like cortisol levels? And I mean, how is that measured?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about a study that we just had accepted 2 days ago. It'll be coming out in about 4 to 6 months, but it's officially accepted in Pain Physician. It is 327 of our patients seen between 2016 and 2019. It's a retrospective cohort study, which means this treatment group, we looked at what kinds of stress did these individuals have? And how
Mhm.
does stellate ganglion block work with different kinds of stress? So people had a wide range of stress, not just combat warfighter stress, but childhood stress, hazing, bullying, I mean, you name it. For your media outlet, I've done interviews on how child stars, are sometimes preyed upon because they're vulnerable in some ways by people. I
I
grew
think of
up in
Britney Spears right now and what she's going through.
Yeah, I did an article on her situation in terms of conservatorship, and
Mhm.
others, who get a sudden burst of fame and money, and then there are people in their lives that should protect them that take advantage of them. And I grew up in Hollywood area, so I know that scene and I know what can happen. And what looks good on the outside, often people are really can be struggling and suffering on the inside and very
More
vulnerable.
than the average person.
Yeah,
Because
and then, mhm. Yep, yep, exactly. So I lost my train of thought, but
but
what were we
no,
talking?
so you had 320 something
Oh,
cases of different
yes.
varieties, right? Of
Oh,
of
thank you, Mark.
stresses.
Yeah, I want to tell you about this. So it doesn't matter when the trauma occurred. Our data shows that even if the trauma was from childhood or something that happened recently, like you lost your home in one of our California fires, something recent, stellate ganglion block can still have an effect. And in that sample, over 80% of those treated had dramatic reduction in their trauma symptoms with one single day at the clinic. And so it kind of sounds too good to be true to people. And it did to me at one time, but I have the advantage of being in the operating room with the physicians that do this procedure. And now, having had it myself, I really have that sort of perspective on it that I want everybody to have.
That's
So that study just came out, and other studies are going to be coming out, kind of looking at, how long the gains are maintained over time.
mhm.
Hopefully really testing the theory I've been putting forward that the new model for treatment needs to be combining SGB and therapy. In fact, today I'm going to publish a white paper with Dr. Lipoff
Great.
on stellate ganglion block, and I'll be happy to shoot you a link. You can
Please.
drop it in your show notes if you want. It's about 36 pages, and it gives everybody all the information on everything from, what does this cost to what is my organization doing to make it available. We have 40 sites all over the country. What are we doing to make it available for people financially, to be able to pay it off in, little chunks with no interest, and other things that we can do to make it an option for people.
Yeah, you want to get this out there. But Shauna, with the data and the white paper that are coming out, are you guys going to work towards, an FDA approval so that you can, make bolder claims to the public? What's the goal for, what you and Dr. Libov are doing?
Yeah, that is a long process, getting FDA
Yeah.
approval, a very long process. I'm kind of thinking which will happen first. There is a process of getting FDA approval, and there's also the process of saying, hey, this should be made available as an off-label process because it's safe and effective for people with trauma. So, for
Mhm.
example, when I was working in the VA, there's a lot of medications that we provide that were not developed for that purpose. Something that we often gave people for nightmares was actually developed for a different purpose. But
Mhm.
physicians are allowed to, if something is safe and FDA approved for one thing, are allowed to use clinical discretion to use it for other potential therapeutic effects. So there's this law that would be passed hopefully sometime soon called the Treat PTSD Act. And it was proposed by Congressman Perry, but there's 22 co-sponsors of both parties, and the VFW, AMVETS, American Legion, the biggest national veteran support organizations, have all endorsed this. And if it passes, it would make stellate ganglion block available across the entire country through all the VAs for all of the veterans. And that matters because, first, veterans deserve the best care that we have. They deserve to have this treatment option. But also, historically, when things are brought forward to support veterans, civilians are able to benefit themselves fairly quickly thereafter, because enough people have the procedure and they say, wow, that really changed my life. And then it sort of builds momentum. So that's kind of what I think may play out. And as more people become familiar with this and know what this can do, I think it'll just kind of create momentum in and of itself. But yes, I want to get this out. I'm grateful to you for doing this story. Happy to come back anytime, talk about anything you want to really get this out.
Awesome. And is there a website that we can find this at, and, for the general
Absolutely.
public?
Yeah. I mean, 70% of our patients are civilian, 30% are veteran. So the general public is the majority of the people we treat. And this treatment was used to be really only available to active duty military service members, but by creating 40 clinics and growing at one a week, this is available for everybody across the country. The website is www.stellacenter.com. STELLACENTER.com.
And
And
there's a dash
anybody
in
can,
between Stella and Center, right?
no, it's all together,
It's all one word,
all one word.
stellacenter.com.
Yeah, stellacenter.com.
Mhm.
We have a wonderful team that can do, a first meeting and intake. There's no charge for that. So would really encourage people to call in and talk to somebody in our team, ask your questions, find out more about this, and see if you might be a good candidate, because it's not just for people with PTSD. It's for people with those symptoms we talked about, who can't sleep and, always sort of feeling like there's a threat coming at them.
And you said you have 40 offices. Where are they located? Are they evenly dispersed across the country, or are you guys in the early stages of having mostly here in California?
No, they're all across the country, in California. And when you put a clinic down, you kind of look for what's called demand signal, which is, a number of people in an area that would want this treatment, right? So there's some
Mhm.
strategy in where you would launch a clinic. So that's why in Los Angeles, we have two clinics. We
Mm.
have two clinics in LA because it's such a big area. There's so many people that probably could benefit from this treatment. So we have San Diego clinic, the one I visited yesterday, two in Los Angeles. We have a San Jose clinic. We're opening up a clinic in Sacramento, but we have, all across the country, Texas, all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, in the middle of the country. There's a map on our website that shows where all the clinic locations are. And we're continually growing and actually have expanded into Australia as well, where we have 2 sites there and growing there as well.
Are you guys a private company, or do you have public funding now? What's where you guys at? Because this is a very big, got big launch to already be all over the country.
Yeah, we are a private company and we launched during COVID, which is kind of a hard time to launch when you have a procedure that depends on people coming into an office. But we've treated about 2,000 people during COVID. That's how great the demand is. And actually, you might be interested. There's a docu-series by PenFed Digital Team. They did a series following 3 of my patients who were all treated by Dr. Eugene Lipov, 2 combat Marines. One was a COVID nurse in a COVID ER in New York during the surge. And they followed them over the treatment many months later. And now they're doing the 1-year follow-ups. And that film is a very short film, and it won 7 Emmy Awards. So I can share that link with you as well. It's a powerful depiction of, what this is doing.
That's wonderful. And I know you got to run to next interview, and I just want to help you spread the word, in my little way. And I hope that, I think a news station is going to cover you now. So I'm glad to see all this publicity around a great cure and what seems to be helping people. 80% success rate. That is amazing. And let's, stay in touch. And if there are any developments in your company, what you guys are doing, you have my number and my email. Please reach out to me and we'll make sure to cover it. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Dr.
Mark.
Shauna.
Anytime. All right, take care.
Have
Bye.
a nice day. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.